Welcome, one and all, to this show, where we will go head deep into not only the lore of the man behind the multi platform, multi game guild known as Xenocorp Inc., but also into the inner workings of the mind of the one and only Flayman in what is simply known as the Frey Files. Please enjoy.
And then once I took over the intellectual property rights for the Starfleet Command series of games, I created a nonprofit organization called Dynaverse Gaming Association, and we listed all of the assets of the Starfleet Command series as intellectual property rights of that nonprofit organization because we didn't want to see anybody utilize those assets for a profit perspective.
I didn't realize that you had was in charge of the non-profit that owns Starfleet Command systems.
Yep. Yeah, that's Dynaverse.net is my website. So if you go to Dynaverse.net, you can see the forums are still actually going strong. We've still got people that go in there and post, and the store is still there. But we don't sell the game for any kind of profit. The games are listed. So Starfleet Command 1, 2, Orion Pirates, and Starfleet Command 3 are all still listed there. In addition to the book that I got, it's one only book that I've published, but it was the Orion Pirate Strategy Guide. They didn't neither Taldrin nor Interplay decided to do a strategy guide for the Starfleet Command series. So we opted at Dynaverse.net to decide to take this to involve the community. So we took all the community posts in the forums, kind of put them in a more readable format, got a bunch of more information together for new players that were at the time, coming to play the online versions of those Starfleet Command games. And then basically ramp that up. We even at one point in time had our own kind of Dynaverse communication system to take over GameSpy. So when GameSpy was phased out for a while, we still had we developed our own coding system to run the directory servers that allowed multiplayer campaigns to continue in the Starfleet Command series games. That's no longer the case. It's just there's nobody playing, so we're not going to just have stuff running for no reason. But the beauty of it is that we can crank those services up at any time. So if we start to see if people want to actually have like a retro campaign and play Starfleet Command, old school campaign like that, we could easily accommodate that at any time.
So I also have to admit I have no idea what actually Starfleet Command is. Could you elaborate on that?
So Starfleet Command, the entire series of games, is I think in many ways it's the spiritual predecessor to the Starfleet Online franchise. The Starfleet Command series of games was the first set of Star Trek games that most people considered they actually did right. It was based on the tabletop version of Starfleet Battles by Amarillo Design Bureau. I want to make sure to credit them in regards to their original tabletop design. They're the ones that created the tabletop game. So when Interplay decided to do Starfleet Command, they licensed that the images, the basic concept, the damage tables, the hex layouts for all of the different ships, And it was just basically a way for you to do ship-to-ship combat for the Star Trek Empire. Instead of just having Klingons in the Federation, you had the Kzinti or Meraki, the Hydrons, the ISC. You had a bunch of different interstellar quote unquote races. And those were all represented by different types of technology, different types of ships. So there was a lot of strategy, and it was a great success. The game itself was centered solely on player versus player or co-op play. It was highly modifiable, so the modding community had an absolute blast. It was just a great creative, forum for people because they love Star Trek and they love putting the old school game models in, because you have to remember, since it was based on Starfleet battles, all of those old versions of the actual ships. So you had, the FDN, which was a dreadnought server. Then you had the medium class cruise. Then you had other types of light cruisers that were frigates. And so they were all directly transported from the tabletop into a computer or an automated environment. So all the stuff that you used to have to do, like to roll the dice, and then you write off or scratch off little boxes on your little charcoal sheet, the computer did it all for you. So, and then you add to that graphics. So now you've got, nicely rendered 3D graphics of the starships that you love, shooting the lasers and the photons, or the phasers to Laura, and the photons and the hellbores and the pulse, the PPDs and that kind of stuff, the different technology, to see that all beautifully rendered. I mean, of course it was going to succeed. So it's a great series of games. Now I want to make sure that I throw a shout out to Starfleet Online or Star Trek Online too, because a lot of the individuals that when we just kind of the community started to degrade a little bit, a lot of people went to Eve, and then a lot of people went to Star Trek Online when it came out. There was a significant area of time, I think about 2 years maybe, between when that happened, when people went to Eve, and then Star Trek Online came. And so, but it's STO has aged very nicely. They've really kind of got it shining up now, and it's a good investment if you go in. You don't have to spend money to get stuff. It's won multiple awards on 10-Ton Hammer and some other places, some other online zines that are pretty significant, that you can play the game without a lot of money spent and still get a significant amount of reward.
So would Starfleet Command be around the same time or era that Star Wars Galaxy would have been out?
Well, I mean, you can't compare those because they're different campaign settings. Star Trek Online takes place in the Prime universe, which is considered the canon, the original. So William Shatner, Kirk type. But they also do crossovers really well. So they have done the alternate universe Star Trek. You can get the ship from that, the Enterprise, from the 2014, was it, I believe, or 2012, whatever. Star Trek, the reboot. But it's not technically a reboot because it's alternate universe. But you get what I'm saying. But anyway, they do a really good job of representing all of the stuff. So I mean, they've gone out and like fleshed out the Romulans. They've fleshed out what happened after Romulus was completely destroyed. They fleshed out what happened after some other stuff has happened. I mean, they again, like I said, they've taken the intellectual property right, and after they floundered for first about 2.5 years, then they really kind of, I think that's when they kind of really found their way and started to get their game going. And then it was just tightening up the bells and whistles, which they've done very well.
As always, in my videos, please comment. Comment, comment, comment. Please.